So we moved to, my husband and I moved to Austin, Texas in 1998, and he was going to graduate school. And I got a job at this wonderful nonprofit that was part of the Austin State Hospital, which was a pretty cool, interesting job to have because we were supporting all of these folks who had mental illness, mental health concerns. It was a good job, and I enjoyed it. It was right downtown, Hyde Park, and that was all going, I'd say, pretty well, adapting to living in a new place. And I got pregnant, had a baby, Owen, and I left that job to stay at home with him because I thought romantically at the time that was sort of what needed to happen. And that actually was maybe not a good decision because I missed that job a lot and I had to wander a long time before I found another job that I really liked. But then I got a job at UT and I had another baby, Evan. And with Evan, I had really bad postpartum depression. And I don't mean just like the kind of sad for a couple months after you have a baby, but he had colic and he never slept and I never slept. And my mother was considering, I guess she moved to town. And so it was all just this jamble of like difficult things. And so I wound up in this postpartum depression, which was diagnosed as almost postpartum psychosis. I don't necessarily need your listeners to go down too far of a rabbit hole about postpartum psychosis, but it is a real mental health concern because you can think that you should kill yourself. You should think you could kill your child. There was a woman in Houston whose name is escaping me, but this is about 20 something years ago, 20, 30 years ago, killed like her six children. You may remember this. She had postpartum psychosis, and after each child, she got worse. And the doctors even had told her not to have any more children, but they did because of their spiritual path. Anyway, so postpartum depression can be marked by being sad. You're really adapting. There's a lot of identity stuff that goes on with being a new parent. Your body is definitely bouncing back. Your estrogen and progesterone balances are realigning themselves. And so it's almost like you've been cut off from a particular drug right after you have this baby. Postpartum depression that gets worse can be marked by insomnia, agitation, hypervigilance, paranoia, and if it gets worse, of course, you can start to, really go into a bad place. And so I was kind of not quite in the bad place, but like flirting with the bad place, I guess, I wasn't sleeping. And I mean, when I say not sleeping, I mean, like I could do 2 shots of whiskey, take a Benadryl, whatever it was, nothing. Right. And I kind of got to this point where I was like, the idea of hurting myself is rather entertaining. And then I was like, that's not right. And it wasn't. It was not right. And then I went to see my obstetrician, and she was like, okay, put the baby down. You need to get on some SSRIs and we need to take care of you. And for about a month, I was like, that's not right. I need to be the perfect mother and I need to breastfeed and I need to be like, but I was super hyper vigilant. I couldn't unhook. And then I did start taking SSRIs, and that was like an almost immediate positive shift, which I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then in all of that, though, at the same time was like a lot of identity stuff. Like I'm just a mom, or I don't have anything in my life that besides the babies and like taking care of bills or whatever is mine. I hadn't done theater for like 4 years, 5 years, maybe even longer. And my husband and I went to the Hideout and we watched a Star Trekkin', which is an adaptation of Star Trek. And I was just like, oh, and Chris was like, oh, you could do that. And I was like, could I? And so I signed up for a class at the Hideout, and it was, I took the 101, 201, 301, 401 probably. And it was like, I immediately started feeling a connection back to myself. I was downtown, at night, jumping across the street, going out for drinks, having this thing that felt like being, again, like back in my 20s, and being creative. And I could do it. I was funny, right? It was a skill set that was like, here I am swimming again, like I remember how to do this. And then that led to being, in a troupe with you and singing, doing musical improv, which was super fun. From there, we all started doing the Ladies Are Funny Festival, because we were like, we're funny, Lynn, we're ladies, we should have a festival. And so we did, right? We met all these cool people who were like doing cool things now, and it was like a series of like kind of yes-anding into a feeling of being able to be really like powerful is kind of the wrong word, but competent, really competent, which was the opposite of what that postpartum depression felt like. We're just feeling isolated or alone in a new city. And, and I made lots of friends throughout that process. And so when we made the decision to move here, I've been able to, I think, employ those skills, right? Like that choice point of deciding, I will say, I will go take a class. I will go be reinvigorated and be playful. That was something that has provided me with skills that help me in production. It helps me when I'm, working in a television arena. It helps me like literally when I'm doing a live pledge show and I'm staring at my face in a camera and I'm trying to remember what to say next, whatever. But moving here, it was like, that was another piece of it was, how do you find new friends? How do you find new playmates? How do you find all your resources? And then when I did settle in here, lo and behold, I wound up having to have surgery for, I had a hysterectomy because I had some structural problems going on. And then the next year I had what's called a ductal carcinoma in situ, which is a pre-cancer in the breast, which is like a cancer that could turn into something much worse. And I had to have 2 surgeries actually for that. And, there was a lot of like, how do I yes and those experiences? How do I change with that? I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm not in my 30s anymore. I'm not really in my 40s anymore. How do I, say, well, this is happening now. Like, this is happening now. and that to me is like one of the most important things about the concept of change is that you can fight it. And sometimes fighting it might actually be the right thing to do. But quite often, like with this pandemic, you've got to be like, well, this is happening. I'm working from home. My kid is doing Zoom from home. We are more agitated than we normally would be. This is happening. Okay, it's okay to be depressed for 3 days. It's okay to nap. It's okay to wear the same outfit for 4 days in a row. We don't have to hold to an old way. We can just go. This is what is happening. We cannot stop that thing from happening. We can only change our reactions to it and improv and dance through it. And so that moment back in 2004, I think, was really informative. It gave me skills, and it gave me the confidence to move out of a bad emotional situation. And it was just fun. But it also, it sent me on a trajectory.